Baby gangsters.
Baby gangsters.
Call us BG.
Yeah, you're proud of them.
Slow. Just dust slow.
All right, hold on. Let me just ask you a question. Why are you guys?
Oh no, I'm good. So you from right here, huh?
Where we at, man? You gotta let these people know what the fuck going on.
Diamond bracelets, diamond rings, Dom Perignon, and long limousines.
The families of 2 young men killed recently in Watts are pleading for the violence to end.
Can you imagine a showdown between one of the most elite forces in the world and one of the most notorious gangs that ever existed? Well, that's exactly what happened in 1989. The Crips origin. The Crips is an infamous street gang that originated in Los Angeles, California in the late 1960s. It was founded by Raymond Washington and Stanley Williams, and it quickly gained notoriety for its involvement in drug trafficking, robberies, and other forms of violent crime. The Crips were formed as a response to the widespread poverty, unemployment, and discrimination faced by African Americans in Los Angeles. They initially started as a neighborhood group to protect themselves from other gangs and to provide a sense of community and belonging. However, their activities soon turned violent as they engaged in turf wars with other gangs in the area. Their distinctive blue clothing and bandanas serve as a symbol of their affiliation. The Crips have a hierarchical structure, with different levels of membership and leadership positions. New members are often initiated through a violent initiation process, which may include beatings or other forms of physical violence. The Crips have been involved in a range of criminal activities over the years, including drug trafficking, robbery, and slaying.
They prepare for another assault on street gangs. But that was before the Los Angeles Police Department.
Slow. Just dust slow.
All right, hold on. Let me just ask you a question. Why are you guys?
What's up, bro? What's up, B-Third?
What is that? OGs, BGs.
OGs is our original gangster. Baby gangsters.
Baby gangsters.
Call us BG.
Yeah, you're proud of them.
They've also been involved in a number of high-profile shootings and gang-related violence, both within their own community and against other gangs. The gang is well known for its use of guns and has been responsible for a significant number of homicides in the United States. The Crips have also faced a number of legal challenges over the years. They have been targeted by law enforcement agencies who have sought to break up the gang and bring its members to justice. This has resulted in a number of arrests and prosecutions, both at the state and federal level. One of the most significant legal challenges faced by the Crips was the federal indictment of several high-ranking members of the gang in the late 1980s. The indictment accused the Crips of being a criminal enterprise engaged in a range of illegal activities, including drug trafficking, robbery, and slaying. The case was one of the largest gang prosecutions in U.S. history and resulted in a number of convictions and lengthy prison sentences. However, one memorable event in their history is the epic showdown between the Crips and the Army Rangers.
But why being a gang? What's in it for you? Well, you mean some of your friends been killed?
Yeah, if that's what it takes.
Yeah, I'm not saying you want to. I'm saying you
No,
would.
I don't want to. But if...
His name was Avery. He was standing on the corner. The crowds rolled by. The crowds rolled out, but I don't know why. You see, and they pulled the trigger. But Avery looked back and his eyes got bigger.
Army Rangers versus Crips. The Army Rangers are one of the most elite units of the United States military, known for their specialized training and combat capabilities. In 1989, a group of Army Rangers found themselves in an unlikely conflict with the Crips, one of the most scary street slangs in Los Angeles. Sergeant Bill Folk was an Army Ranger at Fort Lewis, Washington, when he purchased a cheap house in a rough Tacoma neighborhood as an investment in 1989. To protect that investment, he was determined to help push the drugs and gangs out by any means necessary. He had no idea he was about to see combat from his living room. The late 1980s and 1990s saw a new peak in gang violence in America. Unlike other periods of gang activity, easy access to cars and deadlier weapons made these years particularly dangerous for some areas of the country. The late 1980s were also the peak of the crack epidemic in the United States. Drug-related crime surged 180% throughout the decade, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Tacoma was considered ground zero for gang activity in Washington state. Folk grew concerned that a house on Ash Street, his block, was being used to deal crack cocaine. He purchased his own house for $10,000 with the idea that property values would rise. He was set on ensuring the drug-ridden neighborhood would become safe from gangs and drug dealers sooner rather than later. He began to videotape the people who visited the suspected drug house. He wasn't wrong. The occupants were members of the Crips, the violent street gang that was spreading from California to Washington in search of new markets for drugs.
Oh no, I'm good. knife out here, man. You know we come, man. Yeah, I know. You rotten ass nigga, and we out here every day. Y'all, man.
Folk told the Associated Press that gang members began to threaten him when they noticed he was filming their movements. When he feared that the gang was about to take action against him, he called friends from the 2nd Ranger Battalion to his house to have a party and be present in case the house was attacked. During the barbecue, people at the house across the street threw rocks and rotten pears at the upstairs video camera. Some made threatening gestures to those attending the party, and one fired at Folk's house with a BB gun. Folk and some other Rangers crossed the street and confronted the other group. The latter refused to stop throwing things and shooting BBs, while Folk refused to stop filming their activities. According to Folk, they then threatened to exterminate him. Some residents of the neighborhood, including occupants of the house across the street, presented a different narrative in which the Rangers had taunted them and laughed at them. Returning home, Folk called other Rangers for backup. The force of about 12 soldiers drew up defensive plans, and Folk erected a wooden barricade. Folk also called a journalist and photographer from the News Tribune, who visited him at home. Folk carried a Browning high-power and Colt .357. The other Rangers' weapons included an AR-15 rifle, an M14 rifle, a 12-gauge shotgun, and a number of handguns. All of the Rangers' weapons were personally owned, not military issued. The gunfight began at 9:20 p.m. after sunset. It was unclear which side fired first. Both claim it was the other.
And straight doing donuts, so get up with me. Y'all niggas.
That's straight from Englewood.
You can't get all that.
Oh, okay, here go the rest of these Chicago, some more Chicago guys. So you from right here, huh?
Yeah, man. You gotta let these people.
Chaos ensued. For an estimated 10 to 30 minutes, the two groups exchanged intense fire in a gun battle on the streets of residential Tacoma. Witnesses said hundreds of rounds from handguns, shotguns, and semi-auto weapons were fired. Somehow, no one was hurt. In the ensuing battle, people fired towards Folk's house from behind parked cars, and Rangers fired back as one partygoer called 911. Shooting continued for 5 to 30 minutes between the Rangers and 15 to 20 adversaries. Police arrived on the scene and then briefly retreated when gunfire continued. Ultimately, at least a dozen arrived. Those who had been firing at the Rangers fled. Arriving police officers first detained everyone at the Folk residence and sought to confiscate their guns as evidence. The officer tasked with disarming the Rangers, feeling that they had done nothing wrong, struck a deal in which they would hand over only their less valuable guns. All weapons taken were owned lawfully. The police then pursued those who had run away, partly based on descriptions given by the Rangers, and arrested 2 on outstanding warrants. The first police officers to respond estimated 50 to 60 shots were fired in less than a minute. Estimates of the total number fired range from 100 to 300.
Understand that E and the C is on the east side. The Grace got the dot. We the one that you won't beef with, me.
Knock their arm off, anything. Knock their leg off, anything.
Like, what would you say to a mom whose son you had to kill?
The Tacoma police criticized the Rangers throughout the process. At the scene, to the press, and to the Ranger superiors for failing to request police intervention before the shooting started. Folk responded that he did not think it would have helped, as officers would only respond to a crime in progress. Folk said to 48 Horson, 1990, that he had told the Rangers to avoid hitting anyone for fear of being sued. Russ Carmack, the News Tribune's photographer at the scene, later said that he heard a police commander lecture the Rangers for failing to hit anyone. In 2009, Folk said to the News Tribune that one Ranger had in fact winged someone who charged the house. In 2022, he said to Fox 13 Seattle that the Rangers shot multiple people, who fled the scene rather than await medical emergency services. The incident was a turning point for the city of Tacoma. It brought national attention to the gang issues in city streets and prompted residents to take a more active role in policing their neighborhoods.
Shit ain't shit. What does that mean?
I mean, it's whatever. It don't matter.
The families of 2 young men killed recently in Watts are pleading for the violence to end.
To honor the fallen people, please put your weapons down.
And if all the parents of all these gang members come together.
The aftermath. This fight shined light on the ongoing problem of gang violence in America, particularly in cities like Los Angeles, where gangs like the Crips and the Bloods had a significant presence. Gang violence had been a growing problem in the United States since the 1960s, fueled by poverty, discrimination, and the availability of firearms. Despite efforts by law enforcement agencies to address the problem, gang violence continued to plague many communities across the country, leading to thousands of casualties and injuries each year. In response to the incident, the Army implemented new policies to prevent similar situations from occurring in the future. The Army prohibited its personnel from wearing military uniforms or displaying military insignia while off duty, in order to avoid drawing attention to themselves in potentially dangerous situations. The Army also provided additional training to its personnel on how to avoid and respond to dangerous situations while on leave or traveling. The incident was not without controversy, however. Some questioned the accuracy of the media reports, which painted the Rangers as heroes and the Crips as villains. Others criticized the Army for not doing enough to prevent the incident from occurring in the first place.
Money is something Wayne Edwards seems to know something about. Diamond bracelets, diamond rings, Dom Perignon, and long limousines sold $50,000 worth of heroin on Chicago streets every day.
In the years since the incident, there have been a number of conflicting accounts of what actually happened that night. Some claim that the Rangers were on a mission to gather intelligence on gang activity in the area, while others say that they were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. There have also been questions raised about whether the Rangers were justified in using brutal force against the Crips, or whether they should have waited for the police to arrive. The showdown also prompted a renewed effort to address the root causes of gang violence in America. Politicians and community leaders called for increased investment in education, job training, and social programs aimed at helping young people escape the cycle of poverty and violence that often leads to gang membership. They also called for stricter gun control laws to limit the availability of firearms to gang members and other criminals.
One of the longest running wars in the history of this country.
Always be someone outside that's ready to kill me.
These Crips and Bloods.
This is what it is.
911, what's your emergency?
Over the past 20 years alone in LA County.
It would go to the UN. I grew up in the hood. I was born in the hood. I was raised in the hood. I'm a doctor.
That's all for today, folks. See you next time.